What's up? I'm Kyle.
I'm Brendan.
And welcome to the Brain Buffet.
You know who I watched there briefly for a little bit, actually? Steven Crowder.
Yeah, okay.
You watch, I'm sure you've heard of him and his stuff. I spent a couple days watching his stuff, and like, he is extremely controversial. But he brings up extremely good points.
Yeah. He definitely, well, he's a stand-up comedian first.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to like that you have to understand that before you truly like, because you're right. He can be very upfront. I mean, he doesn't care. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks.
Yeah.
And that's good though, because maybe he might approach it aggressively, but to be honest, for what he talks about, you almost have to, because the defense is often very aggressive as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, for sure. They're literally people screaming at him, like ready to hit him. It's insane.
So when you compare that, though, it's kind of level-headed.
Yeah, absolutely. But he just goes off on them. He holds his ground extremely well, and he's extremely smart, and he brings up extremely good points.
And he's articulate.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so hard for, at least in I think he doesn't target, any specific person anyway. But like in college campuses, I've seen a lot of the Change My Mind.
Yeah.
And I think there's a message there because one, those are the kids learning right now who are going to be, making their path going forward. But that often the crowd that you're working with, especially some of the colleges that he was kind of going to.
Oh, for sure. The one I was watching, is that rape culture is a myth? Man, he got some extremely bad backlash, and like he was having a hard time even getting words through without people just screaming at him and trying to like just completely shut the entire thing down when he was offering extremely good points.
Right. And when you put those words though on a banner though, like at a table,
bad.
Right? So it's already kind of provoking, but in the same way though, I mean, it is what it is.
He's provoking thought. He's provoking food for thought. He's making people think.
He is. He's definitely doing that for sure. And especially, you got to look at more of the, like when I saw those videos, I kind of look at the crowd though, because they're the ones that are actually absorbing what's actually going on. Yeah. Because the other person is more than likely in the moment, you know what I mean? And they're not going to, they'll definitely remember the moment for sure. But as far as retaining any dialect back and forth.
Well, you can't retain anything when you're screaming the entire time or trying to fight everything the entire time. A civil conversation
out the window.
Yeah. They don't hold a civil conversation, but once you're holding a civil conversation, that's when you'll actually retain information, but like they fight. So, whereas he will just sit there and talk calmly, but the person screaming is just one track mind, and you can't change that person's mind. Because, something he always tries to do is finding common ground on situations, which he can do with almost anybody.
And it honestly, there's a grain of truth there, and anybody can find something in common ground with anybody. Yeah, you just have to take the time to actually figure it out. Right. And does that take work? Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So then you're going to decide if it's worth it or not, whatever. But regardless, it's good to be a decent human being.
Yeah, for sure. But he likes to use statistics a lot, though, whereas people like just using the rape culture one, for instance, he was saying like rape culture is 1 in 5 women are raped or something. I can't remember exactly what the number was, but like everyone was just like, I know someone that got raped, so there's rape culture here.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. He uses the statistics behind things, whereas a lot of people will just come at them with their own personal experience.
Yeah, and that's tough. It's hard to actually argue just from personal experience because obviously it's very traumatizing and horrific for the individual. But when you use the word culture, rape culture, you can't just think about yourself. You're talking about a culture as if, it's ingrained in people. You know what I mean? And no, I can't say, at least from my experience, that do situations happen? Incidences? Of course, there's horrific things that happen. Yeah. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
But it's not a culture.
That's where, yeah, because I don't know. Then
that's where you draw the line. It's not a culture. There is a problem.
Sure.
There is 100% absolutely a problem.
Sure.
But it's not a culture. And so that's where his wording comes into play. So when he uses words like culture, that kind of is like makes it a fine line that you're kind of teetering.
But I've heard that before in the sense that there's trying to be an expression of a rape culture more in the idea of athletes getting away with things that they shouldn't. So like there's this idea that's passed down that because you have some sort of athletic ability or you're part of some sort of team, organization, or club or whatever it is, that you have some sort of privileges or expectation upon women and or whatever your preference is that is not good, a bad intention. And again, though, things happen. Of course, there's bad people out there. But
I think there's a problem with the judicial system, though, that doesn't properly judge the people that are doing these things. Even with like solid proof, they're like, oh, this kid is a swimming animal. He's great at swimming and his family's rich, so we're going to let him get off.
Usually it comes down to potential or money.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that is a problem. 100%.
Yeah. But to say there's a culture is a very aggressive thing.
It's just to do that though is not fair to the young kids growing up because you're already assuming that they're going to be like that.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. Give them a clean slate, solid chance to be a good person,
Yeah, when you're saying there's a rape culture, you're kind of like ingraining that into everyone's mind, and kids will hear about that as they grow up and they'll kind of be like, it's our culture.
Right.
It's normal.
For sure.
They shouldn't be thinking that, and that's not how it should be raised. They should be raised and know that there's a problem, and everyone will teach that. Everyone will teach that it's wrong, but when you speak of it as a culture, I feel like that's almost kind of harmful to children in the way that they'll learn about cultures as they grow older.
It's almost more negative than it would, be in some sort of positive movement for it, because again, you're just more solidifying the idea.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because even, learning right or wrong, I mean, I feel like, and I can't speak for everyone, of course, but you understand as a human being, at least if you're a decent person, of when advances are not okay.
Yeah.
you know, like there's you gotta make a conscious decision to cross that border.
Yeah. And that goes even just beyond sexual interactions.
Sure.
That goes with just someone giving you enough space to breathe.
Sure.
Someone standing slightly too close.
There's definitely levels of severity of it, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And people need to learn the boundaries of it. So it's
it also kind of doesn't. You learn from. There's definitely part of an environment that you learn from.
Yeah.
So not that there's any justification, but maybe in certain situations there needs to be re-education of morals. Is that a, I don't know how you judge that, that's kind of a very intrusive thing to kind of figure out, but I don't know, because some people, I mean, again, at a certain age, you have to have accountability and understanding right from wrong. I'm not saying that you get an scapegoat for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But if you weren't taught right or wrong, how are you expected to know right or wrong?
Right.
Once you get enough life experiences, again, you reach a certain age where, listen, whether you've done enough wrongs to say, holy, I need to figure out what right is, or you learn from other people, which is probably the best way to do it, is learn from observing.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, though, that line is drawn at 18.
Yeah.
Isn't it, though? Like, you at 18 years old is when you have this line drawn from personal experiences that you can land the rest of your life being locked into a prison, which obviously under certain circumstances, okay.
So the question comes down, how do you judge your level of consciousness of what you perceive as right or wrong, like your morals? How do you judge those? How do you scale that on an individual level? because sure, why is it 18? Why is it the 18 the year that, because my biological meat vehicle has been on this planet for 18 years, that now I get to decide everything for myself, take on insane credit if I want to, all these other things. Why then? And not saying it's right or wrong, but why?
18 is so young still.
Sure. And they say your brain doesn't stop forming until like 25 or something like that.
Yeah, the level of maturity for men doesn't even end until like 40, I believe, is what it is. Women mature quicker, and they're like 25 when they quit maturing. But men don't stop maturing until they're like in their 40s or something, I believe.
Hey, I'm saying old dogs can't learn new tricks does not apply to me. Okay?
Right.
So I don't know. I plan on trying to learn every day throughout my life if possible.
Absolutely.
But
18 is such a young age to be like, all right, you have literally the next 60 to 70 years, but you got to do everything right now.
How do you figure out a moral test? You can't just circle in bubbles. You know?
Right. And if you don't know the answer, just hit C.
I heard actually one of the things I heard about have you heard of the shopping cart theory?
No.
That a good way to judge humanity is if like you observed a parking lot and saw if people did or didn't put their shopping cart into the shopping cart bin. Because there's no negative consequence to it, because if nobody sees it and you just leave it there, well, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And there's no benefit from it either, because if you put it away, I mean,
you're not
just right. So was one of those things that, like, obviously putting it away is being a decent person, and living in the middle of a parking lot is an asshole. But maybe
that's a funny little test
for sure. I wonder if there's more that you could kind of use that as a guideline. Not obviously not that, but like the idea of that decision as a guideline.
Right. Yeah. But then, so at 18, you got, how do you relearn your morals though? So you have to
the easiest answer is a mentor. You know,
you have this moral test, but then if you fail it, you have to get a mentor or something, or
so what the solution is?
Yeah.
Question. Military. I don't know. Maybe that is a good question. I don't know. I can't say I really have an answer to that. I'd love to ponder on that, because
it's hard when someone's been taught their entire lives to live a certain way and they aren't given consequences for their actions, to retrain that.
It can't be oppressive, but it has to be guided. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just life experiences. Maybe not necessarily more of a mentor, but maybe look at it as like maybe they're acting up. Maybe they're a laborer's assistant or something.
Right.
Put them with a decent person on a side job who's just helping them out or whatever.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's just one example. You could splinter off of that however you want and make it appropriate for whoever it is.
Well, that would be kind of like they wouldn't have to go out of their way. It could be, in a sense, them having a job.
Sure. They would still have to get paid, because otherwise it's like slave labor.
Yeah. So they would have a job and they would go work under a person as an apprentice or whatever.
But is it slave? Let me ask a question here. Say they weren't able to access that money. So first of all, in this situation, program, whatever it is, those means would be taken care of, meaning there would be some sort of housing for them. I'm not saying like some sort of orphanage or kind of like, thing like that. But however that would work out, and just say for sake of hypotheticals, we're working with endless money. Okay. So you've got a decent place for them to stay. They don't have to necessarily worry about food or water, survival, that sort of stuff. I'm not saying like it's overly lavish kind of thing, but but they're surviving and they're doing okay. For what they're doing. But they don't necessarily get paid for that money necessarily in the sense of like they get to have that on a card or nothing, but it goes into a bank account or some sort of reserve for them. And then when they do have passed their moral test or whatever it is, they can have those funds, and therefore they have, these ideas and routines and mentalities put forward that they can now use this money to hopefully start a family, whatever makes them happy in a positive way for all of society.
Yeah. And the biggest thing you said there was a routine.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing. Because once you're in a routine, you're going to stick with it.
Sure. It's hard to break routines.
Yeah, it really is. So once you are just routinely, you're going to work every day, you're just being a genuinely good person, you're just taking care of things, you're not...
Routines come down to comfort, and comfort's a growth killer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And biggest thing is change. People hate change, but change is the best thing, you know, because you get to appreciate what you just had or you know, did do or whatever it is. But now you get to learn and experience something new. And then guess what? At some point, you'll get to love and appreciate that same thing, you know?
Yeah.
If you get stuck in the same groove, it gets so deep that you don't get to see the other stuff. Not even.
And it's hard to get out of.
Even because at some point, you got to start climbing.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, absolutely. And you got to dig yourself out of the hole that you put yourself in.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's nice to, I mean, trying different things, no doubt. I'm not saying everybody don't be brash and just quit your job for, I mean, for something else. I mean, unless you're wholehearted on your ideas and what you want to do. But yeah, no, change is good. Change is real good.
It absolutely is. But it's hard for people to change their routine because they're, say an 18-year-old, for instance, he grew up in a terrible home. He was always treated poorly, and he's seen his parents just being bad people. That's just kind of what he has to go off of. That's just what he knows. So he's got to change that routine. But that's hard for an 18-year-old who isn't fully matured to like be like, man, I really should change how I am. That's hard for an 18-year-old to think of. Sure.
So 18, I'm definitely malleable on that. I think it should be dependent on the person. I just don't know what the moral test will be. But you're right. And in that situation, it really comes down to two things, if you ask me. Either a super strong mental will, you could do it that way individually, but you got to be you got to be aware enough to the point that you are 18, young enough to be able to change yourself and then do it. And then the other one was, like I said earlier, the mentor, you know, have some sort of influence, whether it be a guidance and some sort of, I don't know what the word would be for the person, but it could be done.
Yeah.
I'm sure it could be done.
Right. Who decided that 18's an adult?
The ones who wanted to sell cigarettes? I don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you. That is weird, though. Like,
so 18's the point when you can join the military. Used to be the point when you could buy cigarettes. Now it's 21.
I mean, okay. But it's decent, though. It's a decent general idea.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go any lower.
No, definitely not.
So what if more of a baseline? But then who decides who doesn't?
Right. And it's wild to think, like,
because another person would then have to make the decision that, like, hey, look, you're not capable of being a 18-year-old like everybody else. It does have to be a set age.
Yeah. But there's also, I feel like while you're in school, maybe there should be a mental evaluation to sort of, like, your teachers evaluate if you're ready to be an adult or not, kind of.
Well, you'd have to have some super special teachers to be able to understand individual students' minds.
Well, when you're spending...
to a degree to judge them on the level that they would be impacted by. You know what I mean? Like,
but it's somewhat... I wouldn't say easy, but it's possible to do it. Just as your average teacher, you spend 9 months out of the year with this kid. You spend everything but summer. You can tell by their behavior and how they act in school to know if, like, they're mentally ready for the world.
What if it's a comprehensive grade between the student and the parents?
Yeah.
You know? Because intelligence because again, though, you would be basing that solely based upon the education. I'm hoping not the education system that we have now.
No, I'm not necessarily saying their intelligence, more so their maturity level. Not giving them a grade on it, but kind of like...
I mean, to be honest with you, maturity, I feel like you could.
Yeah.
like right or wrong, morals, that's tough. But maturity, I feel like you can almost tell maturity within the first 10 seconds of meeting somebody.
Yeah, for sure. And these teachers would be able to, like, almost help guide these kids to a future where they're able to finish growing. Or maybe there should be a step after high school that's not college, but something that will help these kids
Well, I think that's kind of what it's getting to. I mean, though the education system should be restructured and more efficient, and you know, it's very inefficient.
Yeah.
Post that, I think that's the question. There needs to be much more options for that.
Yeah.
Right now, it seems like there's only one path that's real deep and wide and rich, and that's the university degrees. And then, you know, you got like another one that's, you know, pretty deep but not as big as the other one, and that's the laborer. And though that is more of a perception than anything, you know, because obviously that's what the world kind of runs on. I mean, let's be real. I have laborers in my family, and you have to have those people.
Yeah.
And they're underappreciated for sure. But the perception of, you know, the paths, and then of course you got like, you know, really just kind of straggling tributaries over here or whatever else.
Really, as far as schooling goes, there's two courses after high school. There's university, like you said, or there's like a technical college.
That's true.
Which is like the labor type thing. That's where people go to learn electricians, HVAC, welding, whatever it may be in technical school.
Fair. I did miss that step. My bad.
I feel like those are the two options for schooling, though. And there's a huge, huge gray area that is being missed.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
For people that don't know necessarily. And they're just kind of like left out, and then they spend their next 10 years not knowing what they're doing and they were sent off into the world on their own as 18-year-olds not knowing anything.
Yeah.
So there's like this gray area that's missed for kids that aren't ready for college or technical school, but they need some sort of guidance because they're 18 years old and they don't know what the hell's going on with life.
No, you're absolutely right. And in a good way that I was just kind of, as you were saying that, I was visualizing it. You got like this giant pool, and you literally have two bottlenecks that go up, you know, university and
technical school.
Yeah. And you're right. It's difficult, and you get yourself into those, and then those that do come out that do know what they're doing, you know what I mean, or want to, or whatever. But there is a very missed, and a lot of those people on the outside that are, you know, kind of being forced into, you know, it's tough, because I kind of felt that way with university. You know what I mean? I kind of felt like it was just expected and forced, and, you know, I honest with you, I knew it was a lie. I knew if I wasn't going there to get a law degree or for medical, you know what I mean? Like if I wasn't going in there for IT to be like some sort of, and even that probably more so is debatable, though it might have been better because I never had any experience before that. Not to say that because to be honest, most IT have paved their own pathway there. And there's definitely university involved with it, of course. But those big things, if you're not going there for that, I mean, I went there for business.
You're just going for debt.
Sure. and though the business ideas that I've learned, though obviously through certain levels of it, whether it be, I mean, marketing, I feel like marketing in college is kind of strange because marketing is advertising. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know exactly what levels of that. I mean, you can obviously be creative and know different routes and strategies to it. But what I'm getting at is a lot of that stuff should have been taught in high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you get out of something like university for business, when you go into places, all they want is experience. And you're like, dude, I was just in school. Like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, I was in school and I was working a job or two, you know, maybe making sandwiches. And then, you know, I was making sandwiches in a call center at the same time while I was going to school.
Yeah.
And, but what do you, how? You know, unless you're doing interns, which of course those are nice, you know. But again, though,
that's slave labor.
It is.
It is. Internships are slave labor. Internships drive me insane. But I guess the idea, or I'm sorry, a way to look at it is it's an investment. Instead of investing money, you're investing your time for that potential opportunity. But I agree with you. But you're still working for a company, making them money, and they're not paying you.
There's just no way of getting around that. That's why I finished with I agree with you.
So, yeah, that's one thing that drives me absolutely insane about internships. And these companies, they do expect you to have experience. They're like, oh, come here with 4 years experience. But it's every single company wants that. So what do? Where do you get this experience? You can't use your college's experience, even though you spent 4 years in college learning it.
Exactly.
So what do you do out of college? There's almost not even a purpose of going unless you're going for, like you said, medical, lawyer, or IT. And even IT's even iffy because a lot of times you will need experience in that field as well. Oh, it's a little looser.
It's looser and it's easier to practice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, because you can practice on your own.
If you have a computer.
A lot of IT people do start their own things. They start their own businesses. So.
And that's why I was kind of like loose in putting that in there, because it very much was paved its own path, and then it kind of got... No.
But they are still one of the high earners out of college.
Sure. Very much so.
Yeah, definitely. But like you were saying with business, that's an odd college course because they'll teach you things about business, but
or even
like
certain biologies.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I mean, again, medical. When you get to specialization of working on human beings and even animals, if you're actually like a veterinarian per se, if you're in any sort of situation where the thing that you can do can kill the other thing that's living, in my opinion, besides from your own ignorance of just making mistakes or being a human being, you need to have some sort of thorough education, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's like, you know, life or death. And then you got like the lawyer aspect of it, of course. If you're in a situation to where certain actions can impact the future of your life.
When you're defending the doctor that accidentally killed somebody.
Exactly. So there's certain things, no doubt. But the problem is what I was telling you, like when you were talking and I was visualizing, it's a bottleneck. Like instead of a bottleneck, there needs to be a lot of open, different ideas and valves of just flowing things. And again, sure, you need to have universities. Just need to be restructured and re-ideated and reimagined. You know,
and it has to be different levels for people
and
too.
And even like what you were talking about with technical school.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that there's not a whole lot of time sitting in classrooms.
No.
Good.
Generally speaking, it's a lot of lab work. You're actually hands-on with a lot of things, which is why a lot of people go to technical schools, and that's why people like that, because it is hand-on work. There is still book work because certain things like
there's
you gotta
relative basics and general ideas.
Yeah.
Sure.
But generally, it's hands-on.
It's your instruction manual, basically.
Yeah. But a lot of times you will be like out, sometimes even on an actual job site and building houses and working with like carpenters, for instance, or like welders or whatever it may be that you happen to be learning in a technical school.
Yeah.
So
that's good. That's
why I'm a big supporter of technical schools. I like that option for a lot of people because it is very hands-on, and that works for a lot of people. A lot of people are very hands-on with things. They can't just sit down, read a book, and then go execute it.
Sure. And even that though, that type of knowledge is it's useful, but it's very limited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of obedient knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's definitely discipline and hard work involved. I'm not discrediting it, but it's a very structured learning experience.
Yeah.
And it's a very boxed learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
Though, I mean, again, in college, university, whatever, if you had a good professor, you were able to discuss those ideas.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you were able to kind of mold a little bit more of your own experience. But even that, though, you're relying on your feedback, which, of course, is your professor. And you know,
but you're still sitting in a class with 30 other kids or even more
and nobody
at times.
talks up.
Yeah. And it's what one person says doesn't work for everybody.
No.
So it's hard to have a personal learning experience and learn in the way that you actually need to.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And again, kind of goes to the moral test thing.
Yeah.
How do you know? How do you know how to teach each kid? And how does that, in universities I'm talking about, anything below that, again, though it needs to be restructured, there has to be a general idea of basic knowledge, that needs to be K through 12.
Yeah.
But how do you know? I guess I would hope that the kid would know, but how do you know what that level of learning is? How do you teach that? Because you're only one professor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even worse. I mean, public schools, there's a lot of kids, one teacher, but like in universities, you got like a theater. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a giant class.
Sitting here and thinking about it, though, it's kind of wild that we didn't learn about morals in school.
Well, we kind of did. When going to a Catholic school, though
yes,
there were a lot of flaws, I'll be the first to admit that. The one thing that I can appreciate is there was this relative discussion of right and wrong, good and bad.
That was primarily just in religion class, though. It didn't. When I switched to a public school, and there wasn't like anything really. There was no kind of like, don't do this. Like,
it was kind of just a free for all, I can imagine.
Yeah, essentially it was. Whereas when I was in Catholic school, it does teach good morals. There was really good morals behind it, but there's a general, like, why not have like a moral class? Like,
sure.
Or even if it's just like,
well, I feel like it would be more of like a life experience class.
Yeah.
Moral class is hard because who's teaching that moral class? Who puts somebody at such a moral stature that they get to teach what morals are?
Well,
it would be kind of a life experience of what, and again, though, it could come, even honestly, it probably would be better come from negative experiences, like that's why AA, I've never been to one, so I can't fully speak upon it, but I could only imagine that the aspect of sharing in an AA meeting of true, honest opinion from people, or honest stories from people, that in its own sense is not only liberating, but very impactful in its own sense, because you're learning from somebody's mistakes.
Right.
And you can actually like see it, it's not reading in a book or somebody not living the experience telling me it, but it's actually somebody who did the errors.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be more of an impactful learning experience in those ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
Versus, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there, but like versus like the DARE class.
Yeah.
A cop came in and talked about DARE class. It's nothing against police. You have to have good, honest policemen. There has to be some sort of structure of understanding and consequences and accountability for not. But how it's hard for me to be told not to do drugs from somebody that I already know doesn't do drugs, because I'm like, well, duh, of course you're telling me that. Like,
someone that just takes the drugs from bad people and such.
Sure.
Whereas like when I initially started in manual labor, I became a roofer, and I started working with people quite often that were on something or like had a past with something, whether it be heroin or crack or meth, whatever. And those people, seeing them on drugs or them telling me their drug stories, is like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you right now, if I was in 6 to 8, and this might have been probably the reason why, because I don't know what parents would allow this. Maybe the cop would be standing on site, whatever. But if a crackhead walked into my school and told me not to do drugs and told me why and whatever he was going through because he was doing drugs, I'd look at my friends and I'd be like, dude,
maybe I don't want to smoke.
We're not
crack.
Doing drugs. Drugs are bad, okay?
But when we're just told not to do something, we're told that our entire lives.
Sure.
We're told not to touch hot things. We're told not to keep our hands off the stove, and we're told to not play with knives and stuff like that.
Some of us actually touch the stove, though.
Some of us touch the stove. Some of us cut ourselves on knives. Some of us stood too close to the edge and fell off of something.
But the problem with that is you then have that negative consequence from it. So the idea is in those situations, the ones that could be, and I'm talking about the drugs and DARE class or whatever, those that could be truly impactful. Like if a heroin addict came into the classroom and talked to kids, like they would be like, no, we're not doing that. Okay. We get it. We're good.
Yeah.
But it's hard to take that moral lesson from somebody who you expect.
Yeah,
from.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize I was just yelling in the second. My bad.
Yeah, but like you were saying though, people need to learn from real experiences. I think that would be the best thing for kids. And while sure it may be scary to parents to put them in that situation, your kid's going to learn so much better. That would help prevent the opioid epidemic that we're currently under.
It definitely has to be a controlled area, though.
Absolutely. It still needs there should still be the cop there.
Sure.
The cops should still be there.
Yeah, right.
But like there needs to be the realism behind it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
The person that's coming in, I mean, they can't be like high at the moment or whatever, or even bringing in a recovered addict or something like that would still be better than what they do now.
I'll be honest, and I can relate to this. So I living in the state that I live in, about it's like 2 or 3 years ago. I was driving home from work, and I went to my buddy's house, and I got some marijuana, and I was driving home with that marijuana, and I got pulled over with that marijuana. And one of the things that I could do is go to this class, right? And so I went to this class because then I just had to pay a fine or whatever like that. And it was just expunged off my record. So I went to this class, and they did kind of this thing. They brought in an AA member, and he was talking about his experiences. But even the people that I was around, they were talking about some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And then this guy came in, and he was talking about his experiences, and he was talking about situations where him and his friends, buddies, gang, whatever, crew, whatever you want to call them, would break into people's houses, and they would take the pills, and they would, take all the pills, whatever it was, and then they would go back and put it in a bowl and shake it up. Christ. And they would literally they would call it a something salad. I don't know, whatever it was. And they would just grab and go.
Yeah.
And then I'm just sitting there like, dude, I got busted with like an eighth. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
It was so impactful for me to like, whoa.
And it's funny because then when they asked you to stand up and talk or whatever,
I felt bad. I was like, dude, I had a bad day at work. Like I just like, and they were talking about some serious stuff, and I was like, you're right though. I did kind of feel bad because I sat down and I was like, I don't belong here.
Right.
This is not.
And it's funny because all those people will look at you funny too. Like they're like, that's it? Why are you here? Because it's ridiculous. But
aside from my how I felt about it or whatever, that idea was still presented. The problem is I had to get busted, get caught.
Yeah.
I had to like touch the stove kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I got that experience.
Right.
But that experience. And the guy he was sober. He was, again, AA. But the stories that he could relate to not only is fact stranger than fiction, you can feel the genuine authenticity to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, nothing against cops. You need good police. But they can't necessarily give you that genuine authenticity of the fact that, like, this can be bad.
Yeah, they've never used it. Likely.
And if they did, it's not relative to their experience of, you know what I mean? Whatever.
No, it's not.
People experiment, but...
Yeah, but it's not what led them through life as some of these people, which is what needs to be shown to kids, really.
At least I hope not.
Yeah. I wouldn't say, though, like, 6th and 8th grade for a real experience like that might be a little young.
Fair. Sorry, I didn't mean to put a number
I know,
on it.
That's when we kind of went through their class
high
and
school.
stuff.
That's
more of a high school experience because you are starting to mature. You're starting to get ready to go out into the real world because the world is making you pushed out.
Maybe that's it, dude. Maybe like your 11th and 12th year, you have, if you still need, you have general structure courses, but maybe you can test out of those. You know what I mean? But you have... call them seminars. You have seminars, whether good or bad, but just real life experiences from people who, whether come from highs or lows, and you get to see it. You get to see of what people really went through.
I feel like it needs to remain in a more personal setting, though.
Sure. I didn't mean seminar in the sense of like a theater of people.
Yeah.
Still a classroom.
It should still be a classroom in a more personal setting, because once you put together 300 kids, that everyone's going to be acting goofy.
You're right. I didn't mean seminar in the sense of like.
But when you put a class of 20 to 30 kids in there, and like everyone can listen and really like hand up, ask questions and stuff, like
and feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when he was talking about that, I was like, dang, I've been to some lows, but I've never been to real lows.
No.
Like
I never felt that.
And what it did though, and maybe this is maybe kind of the point of it, it makes you really truly appreciate what you do have and what you can lose. You know? Right. And I was like, dang, okay. I get it. I get it.
There's very few kids that
be more careful when I drive home.
Yeah. There's very few kids that get that real experience though, because even if say their parents are drug abusers or whatever, they're generally not doing it in front of their kids. Their kids aren't realizing it, or they're too young, so they're ignorant to it.
Right.
So that'd probably be a good lesson. That'd probably be a good thing to have for kids in the classroom rather than having biology in high school.
Well, again, though, you got to test out of the general stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, you have to learn the general stuff.
To an extent.
Is it abuse? Sure. And I'm not, and again, though, the whole idea would be structured. So like, sure, like there's certain things that like are necessary, maybe not necessary. Or maybe if like, you know, from, again, one of your courses where you've done a labor experience and you realize like in your labor experience, maybe anatomy isn't necessary for me, or maybe, you know, whatever. So you can focus on maybe something else instead of, you know, whatever, however you restructure that. But you should be able to test out of those.
Yeah.
And instead of not having anything to do, observe life experiences.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
Build your moral but then, it is kind of strange to think about in that idea of the personal experience is so impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there does need to be a big restructure to this whole schooling system, though. Especially now with how accessible any knowledge is. I feel like if people want to learn something, they can look it up, something that's extra.
Well, are you talking about how easy access everything is in the far as information? Yeah, no, and that's one thing that's kind of crazy right now is like ignorance is a choice.
Yeah, it absolutely
is. It really is. Like there's no excuse for being ignorant anymore.
Yeah, you don't even have to like necessarily search an entire thing, but you can type in someone's name and pull up anything about them, any recent news about them. Like you type in Hillary Clinton right now, it's going to pull up the Evergreen ship or the Evergiven. So
no, you're right. It's so easy but then it's so easy disposable, but it's also so easy to control as well.
It is absolutely, because there's the ability to take things off of search engines that people don't want to be seen.
And that's also a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Do I want to have 17 search engines that I have to go through? No. But should there only be and there's not. To be honest, there's not one for me anymore. I use DuckDuckGo. To be honest, I use DuckDuckGo.
I still use Google. It's probably the most limiting.
The only time I use Google, and this is weird enough, is when I'm trying to do location stuff. So like food near me, something near me, because I'm always like, okay, Google knows where I am.
Yeah. At all
times.
Like
when I do it on DuckDuckGo, which is the beautiful thing about it, it's like
it doesn't
showing me restaurants in like Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need that.
I'm not quite there, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of a good thing. That doesn't necessarily know where you are, though. It's kind of crazy how much access everything has to our location, no matter what. And we unknowingly give access to it. It's one thing when you open an app and it asks for access to your location and you press accept.
Right.
But when you don't press accept and it still knows, that's a problem.
Sure. And are there even apps that allow you to decline it and still access the app? Because I feel forced to anymore.
Yeah, it depends on the app and what features you want to use. Like, so Snapchat, for instance, they have the ability to show your location and you can let it access your location and you can decline if you like. And I decline because I see people on there that accepted it, and there's like the Snapchat map, and it shows where each individual person is. I'm like, man, that's scary.
That's scary.
You don't know who you're letting see where you are.
Scary.
It's one thing if you're letting the app access your location and who might be looking at it in that end.
People.
But individual people can see where you are.
No, thank you.
No, absolutely not.
No,
I don't want people to know where I'm at any given time.
It was honestly about that point where like I stopped all social media.
Yeah.
Really though, I was like, what? No. I'm not cool with that.
There's no reason that Facebook needs my location. Dude, Twitter needs it.
I gotta say something. When we were in Hawaii, we were staying at a resort, and because of everything going on right now, I had to get a COVID test before I went. It was negative. I already had it, so I knew it was going to come negative, but it came up negative. And then we took the flight. And then when we landed, we couldn't be picked up until it came up negative. But thankfully, it was pretty quick, so we found out. But when we got there, we had to do they called it an EMQ. And it was basically a quarantine. But we couldn't do anything. But it wasn't so much the quarantine that gave me a problem, because my fiance did make it kind of relatively knowledgeable or reasonable in the sense that, like, listen, 72 hours, we're going to spend 3 days at the pool anyways. Get over it, kind of thing. Right. And I was like, okay. I see you there. That makes sense. I'm cool with it. But I had to pay money for a wristband that had like this big tracker on it. I swear. Hold on. It gets worse. I then had to download an app on my phone and take a picture of the QR code on my tracker. And I had to keep my phone on me for the whole 72 hours, and it couldn't die. So
that's worse than probation.
I'm on vacation, and I'm on vacation, and I don't want my phone on me. I would have loved to leave my phone in the room off for the whole 7 days that I was there. I mean, pictures, okay, whatever. But the fact that, like, I not only had to have my phone on me the whole 72 hours, I had to keep it charged, and I have a pretty old phone. So I not only had to keep my phone on me, but I had to keep it charged into a battery pack. So I'm walking around the pools in Hawaii with a battery pack in my pocket and my phone and this tracker on me. And I mean, it was beautiful. It was great. It was an awesome experience. I'm not trying to complain about it, but it was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird. And the worst part about it too, and we had to sign a waiver when we got there. And I'm thinking in my head, the only reason why we have to sign a waiver is because what you're doing is legal.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get sued.
It?
I did.
You read
I did.
It in depth?
I read it in depth. I asked for a copy. I got a copy. And I took the whole time to read it too. And the one lady was like, "Are you a lawyer?" And I was like, no, I'm just trying to be a aware, conscious person about what I'm signing here.
Yeah.
Because this is strange.
Yeah, I'm making sure that you're not stalking me or got a man in the bushes following me.
The weirdest thing was, and trying to understand it, but one of the clauses is that they're not responsible. It was related to COVID, but it said, it said something of like, and or any other unspecified reason or cause of death. And I was like, what? Like, and so I'm a little paranoid about that.
That sounds like they're trying to kill you.
I know. That's what I thought. But then I was like,
so they're tracking you to kill you almost. That's kind of what it sounds like. Sure, that's not. Didn't happen. But
it didn't happen.
Sounds like it.
I signed off on it because I had to, because guess what? I'm not leaving Hawaii right now.
Yeah.
And I go up to the room, and we have 2 doors, right? We actually had it was a great experience. We had a beautiful view. It was awesome. But we have 2 doors, and one of the doors does not deadbolt. The deadbolt does not work in the door.
I would have gone and bought one.
I'm like, oh my God. The only reason why I didn't is because I did have like the door latch
thingy, so it can't open too far. Yeah.
Right. But even still, somebody could kick that.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody wanted to, somebody could. And I realized nobody was. But
right.
But The fact that they're making people do that and people aren't aware.
But you're giving somebody power.
A lot of power.
A lot.
And I felt...
Because it's one thing if you're giving people access to your location on your phone, because you can leave your phone wherever. Mm-hmm. And then they can't trace you. Well, as far as we know.
Right.
But we might have a chip. But, yeah.
Dude, I've been hearing weird stories about the COVID test being like laced with like...
I've heard that. Scary.
Sorry, I didn't mean to...
But, yeah, like I said, it's one thing because you can leave your phone behind. But they're literally requiring you to wear a wristband, download an app, keep it on you, and charged.
Dude, it was weird.
That's literally how people that are on probation are. I've watched people with ankle monitors go up to a wall and plug their ankle monitor in.
And I felt it. And I told some loved ones of mine, and I was like, and again, I didn't want to complain, but I was like, this is the most beautiful, lavish, luxurious prison I've ever been in.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, it is.
And the worst part that I took is like, we could go, and I did have one restaurant did have really good food, but I was limited to 2 restaurants and room service in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I'm on vacation. I'm a foodie. Like, I'm trying to get out there and have some food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was, what, $20 for grilled cheese?
Right. It doesn't destroy the experience, but for the first couple days, it would hurt it. It would...
Thankfully, we were able to make the most of it.
Yeah, so what you have to do with the situation.
Sure.
Which is all we've been doing for the last year and a half now, is just making the most of it.
The problem is, I feel like it's becoming a norm.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that how normal it's becoming. And then you got airlines talking about having the vaccination check for flying.
Oh, like the vaccine passport.
Yeah, you have to have a card just to be enabled to fly. Like,
yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah,
that's super scary.
Yeah, even if I were to get it, I don't think it's anybody's right to ask.
It's nobody's right to know.
Yeah.
What happened with like not to bring up more controversial subjects, but like the whole abortion idea. The abortion idea is like my body, my right. Okay. Yeah. You don't get to know or decide what I do with my body.
Yeah.
Done.
You can know if I tell you.
Sure. But I make the decision to tell you.
I make the decision. You're not going to force me to do anything.
Or tell you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing.
It almost feels like they're putting a gun to our head to get the vaccination.
It's becoming a badge of honor.
It is. People will post pictures of themselves holding it like...
And again, listen, if you want to get it,
awesome.
Get it. Cool. I'm about individual happiness. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But you do not get to decide what I have to do with my individual happiness.
And you can't...
Or force it upon me.
You can't be demeaning towards me either because I made my own personal choice for my body. You can't tell me I'm a terrible person for this. You can't say I'm a worse person for this. Just like I don't to somebody else.
Sure.
Even if I don't think it's the smartest decision, I'm not going to sit here and just bash you for it.
I'm okay with you thinking that my decision is not a smart decision.
Yeah.
Sounds good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get over that now.
But it's on our constitutional rights to be allowed to travel.
Well, and that's the thing that's getting overlooked. Not even overlooked. Let's be honest. It's getting stepped on.
Yeah.
Our
constitutional rights in general are being stepped on. The founding fathers started this entire country on is completely being diminished from what it once was.
And the worst part about it is a lot of people aren't even aware and or care about it. I'm dumbfounded about it.
Yeah. Freedom of speech is a huge one. So I can't say whatever I want on social medias without it being filtered. Which it is a private business, whatever, and they have the right to do whatever. I agreed to their clause, I guess. But like,
they have the right to refuse service, sure, just like anybody does. But because of that, doesn't mean they get to own a monopoly over the industry. Because you have to have choices for that then.
Yeah.
You know? And that's starting to happen.
Why do they get to choose what I can and can't post?
But you don't get to be decided as a publisher then, because you're not. Or I'm sorry. You are a publisher. You're not a free speech platform.
Yeah.
You are a publisher because you're deciding what can or can't be published on your platform.
Yeah. So there goes freedom of speech.
Done.
We can't say just whatever we want without being basically burned at a cross for it. Like,
and it's so weird because some people are just like, oh, well, yeah, probably shouldn't have said it. And it's like, no. It's not if you do or don't agree with what they say. It's the fact that they made a sound with their voice and or used physical actions to touch a screen. And because of their thoughts, they're now being rejected and not allowed to be heard.
Yeah.
The antidote to that is being heard. Because if you're saying something stupid, people are going to tell you're saying something stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but a social media platform shouldn't be allowed to not let me post it. Just if people want to tell me I'm dumb for posting something, let them.
Yeah.
But I should still be allowed to post it no matter what it is.
Dude, I heard the dislike button is going to be revised or removed, or the ratio is going to be taken away from videos. And it's like, why?
Yeah, that's such a minor thing.
Why? But sorry, it just kind of related with the idea of there being
it's wild that then, like, with the airlines, they're taking away our right to travel. That's another one of the constitutional rights. I can't remember which one it is, but the right to travel. We always have the right to travel no matter what. Like, sure, it's a little bit different because it's an airline. They didn't exactly plan us flying and stuff like that, which also goes down to, like, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. So, but
it's beautiful how they're all linked together.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. In that, like, who's to say what guns we can't have?
And it comes down to I mean, like, exactly. A car doesn't kill somebody, the person behind the wheel.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
I've never once seen a gun pull its own trigger.
I've never, no, me neither. In all my years of hunting and living, I've never seen a gun get out of either the closet or the gun rack or whatever it is, pop itself off, load itself, point itself at somebody, pull its own trigger, and somebody die.
Yeah.
It's never happened.
No, it never will.
So, and the big thing about that is it comes down to your protection.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what gets glossed over.
And it shouldn't matter what you're trying to protect yourself from.
No.
It doesn't matter if you're trying to protect yourself from an animal, a human, a government. It doesn't matter what you're trying to defend yourself from. And the level of gun you need kind of varies based on what you're defending yourself from.
Well, and I think it kind of couples with one of our other podcasts in the sense of, like, you get to defend your own person, your own spirit, your own being. You know what I mean? Nobody else just gets to come in and decide that, like, it's your time to go or whatever it is.
Because they're allowed to have a gun and I'm not.
Says who? Yeah, right, exactly. Right. No, I agree. It's that's definitely, I mean, thank God they're there. I mean, right now it's tough times, but we really do live in the greatest country there's ever been because, dude, some countries are so old they don't have that. Like, they don't even have that mentality, thought, or penmanship on paper. Yeah. And it sounds so, I'm proud to say it, but, like, you know what I mean? It really is great to live here in America.
Yeah. The constitutional rights are a great thing when we're allowed to use them.
Has it got hijacked? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's being completely ruined.
Hopefully it's getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. But
you're right. It's definitely almost experiencing a near-death experience, to be honest with you. Like, it's pretty close. Like, it's
insane that the government, like...
It's really close.
The government wants to take the guns, but why are they afraid of us having guns?
Because what they're doing is wrong.
And
that's my thought, you know?
So,
like, because, I mean, think about it. What was the whole cage fence, barbed wire around the capital or the state, DC?
Yeah.
Why?
The White. What's the White House? It
was the White House.
Yeah, the White House. Yeah. Okay.
In DC. I was good with DC.
Close enough.
Around the White House there, was that to keep people in or keep people out? I would assume keep people out unless I'm trying to go down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
And so again, keep people out. Why are you trying to keep people out? That's the people's house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is your reasoning for keeping people out of that?
Yeah.
Is it because you're doing something wrong? Or is it because you're telling us we did something?
Or are they afraid of what we'll find?
Sure.
Could there be something in there that we could find?
Or underneath?
Yeah.
Or wherever it is. I don't know. But the fact that there was even a barrier is kind of ironic in its own sense with this whole border crisis thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's literally some great irony right there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, what do they have, though, that they didn't want us to see so bad that they got to the point where they were shooting people in there?
Oh, right.
When they were storming.
Yeah.
When people
Ashley Babbitt was the woman that tried to climb through the door, and she got shot. There was more people for sure. I do remember hearing more.
Yeah.
I do remember that situation as well. I guess the easy escape answer for that is that there was a lot of people storming it. So it might have been overwhelming.
Which I could see.
Of course.
I could see that.
Of course.
If I'm one person standing there and I'm watching thousands of people rush into my building, I'm like, oh, well.
I think there's a point. I think there's a point that in itself.
Yeah.
So many more of us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of crazy because that's what's been the problem that a lot of them have said. What has been the problem that some people have said is overpopulation. Why is that a problem? I don't know. When you're in a plane and you fly over, a lot of land out there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
absolutely.
not saying that we need to overtake all the nature and destroy all forests and stuff like that. No. But
there's a lot of empty land.
There's a lot of land out there.
Yeah.
And so this, and again, no, not saying that we have to overtake it, but this just theme that we're overpopulated is just too hard for me to stomach. And I know other countries are different. I get it. There's a lot of, slums in certain countries. They're stacked on top of, even in Manhattan, you're just stacked on top of people. But that's a choice, though. In certain situations, and I apologize, I didn't mean to group that. Manhattan is more of a choice.
Yeah.
Certain other foreign countries, not necessarily a choice. Sometimes you're just dealt a horrible hand.
Yeah, people in Manhattan choose to pay $10,000 a month for a tiny little loft
to be stacked on top of people. No, you're so right.
But there's no way there's a problem with overpopulation. But the one thing that the government has, while we have numbers, the government has news outlets. They have the ability of suppression.
But there's an easy answer to turn off the TV.
But people can't.
Right. And that happens.
People choose that. People choose to watch it and listen to it and take in that information, and then they choose to believe it.
Well, and the other option is the internet. That's been the antidote, to be honest with you. But that's be labeled alternative media, conspiracy theorist, blah 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 blah.
Yeah. But they want it to be labeled as a conspiracy theorist because that gives off a bad connotation.
It combats their narrative,
and especially in like the older generations, they think conspiracy theorists are like essentially stupid.
They've done a beautiful job with labeling that word.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, they package that word label so well that like anybody, it's like a brand.
Yeah,
I feel like a brand.
I think a better name for a conspiracy theorist is a free thinker.
Sure. Well, every conspiracy, it's a conspiracy theory until it's proven right.
Yeah. And they're all,
the problem is conspiracy. Because let's be honest, just remove it. It's a theory.
Yeah.
It's a theory. That's what it is. It's just a thought. Hey, this is a theory. This could happen.
Yeah.
This looks like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know for certain to say like, hey, I have this physical proof to show this physical proof and that physical proof. But if 2 + 1 + 1 = 4, I think the answer is 4.
Right.
Like
Once you start putting all the dots together.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think I'm seeing this to work out as 4, you know?
Yeah. So something I looked up that, since we're talking about alternate news medias, I looked up, I think it was just the Evergreen company or whatever.
Yep.
I looked up Evergreen Children. That's literally what I looked up.
Wow. Google?
Yeah, on Google.
Uh-oh. What'd you find?
So I scrolled down. I was just scrolling, kind of looking, and then I seen Snopes came up.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I clicked on it just out of curiosity because it, like, in the main little line, it said that it was proven false or whatever. It was talking about Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
And it started, like, linking all of her things together. But it said the people that disproved this theory about Hillary Clinton being linked to the Evergreen company and her, like, creating ports for the company and all that, is the one that said it was disproven was a government.
The government was saying that it was true?
That it
Snoops was disproving it?
No, that the government said it was false. And the government is what was taking, or Snopes is what was taking the government's information.
Gotcha. Huh.
So
I wonder if that government was benefiting from the situation.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know, but maybe.
So these alternate news medias are just they're either just taking the first answer that they get off of something, such as a government, and just choosing to believe that.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, really looking into it. And then people will just believe that.
Sure.
They'll just take that and be like, nope, that's the truth. So all of a sudden we're labeled as conspiracy theorists because we think something.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily that we have to, like, hardcore believe in it, but
it's just it's something to combat the narrative. Like, yeah, it's the easy thing to think, and then there's the, like, well, what if this? And then it's like, well, no, you're crazy to think that. How could you?
But once you start linking all these things together, and it's like, all of this makes so much sense that it's hard for it to be false just because a government told me that it is false.
And you're right. And how I started to see that is, like, when you first see it, it's like this, right? And then you're like, ooh, and then you're like, huh. And then you see this over here, and this kind of like, whoa, how does that work? And then you're like, wait a minute. Ooh.
So you look out a little further.
Like, oh my gosh, you could see this over here, and this kind of ties in with that, and this pulls the back. Stop. No. And then you see this over here, and this goes in there, and you're like, really though? Stop. And then you go up even further, and then you realize the whole thing is a fucking spider web, and it just kind of comes together, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then you think about what's the solution, and then you realize it's a giant interconnected thing, and that's why the one word I hate most, coincidence.
Yeah.
Come on. Anybody who does anything that they put any amount of effort into it is not by random.
Right.
It's not. Like, why? Why would you I mean, I'm not saying things happen that you're not aware of. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying you're conscious of everything that possibly could ever happen to you.
But you know who loves the word coincidence?
Who's that?
Governments. Governments absolutely love that things are coincidences and that people can just come up with the idea, oh, that's just a coincidence. But governments love it because it gets them so much off of their back.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, it's just a coincidence.
Sure.
And then people will be like, yeah, that seems kind of far-fetched because they're stuck here. Yeah. And there's the point here. They don't move up with it. They just like, oh, they looked at Snopes.
Because exactly. And when you're there and you see this and then it's okay, well, there's so much other here going on. Like, okay, whatever. I got too much going on over here to even worry about what's going on over there. But it wasn't until, and then you're like, wait a minute.
It's a matter of stepping back to look into it, really looking into it.
You really got to put yourself aside, though, because you can be so ingrained in your own ego and your own beliefs and your own thoughts that you don't get the opportunity to go bigger, to go outer, to go. I didn't mean bigger in the sense to go up.
Yeah, it's to look out on your field of view, is to research this thing, to gather this thing, And then this thing way over here will link all the way to this thing.
And let's be honest, some of the things that you have to put in that search bar, you have to put your opinions and bias aside.
Yeah.
You have to. Otherwise, you're not going to realize, like, I don't know, maybe.
I feel like,
you know, like those thoughts, that step right there is that moment where you're just like, you're really questioning yourself. Like,
yeah. I notice when people get called conspiracy theorists, they kind of almost get offended, though. Some people do.
Some people do. I wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah, I love being a conspiracy theorist because, like I said, I feel like that's just a free thinker.
That just means I don't think what you think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it means
that's okay.
I may have researched deeper.
Or, yeah, and to be honest, sure, but I don't want it to be completely boxed into an effort or and not to say that you just said that, but an intelligent thing. Even just boil it down to an opinion.
Yeah.
I have a different opinion.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's a lot harder to prove some of the things as facts than just listening to a government saying something is fact. Because you start linking all these things, and you're like, this has to be real, but where's the hard evidence?
Sure. And it's harder now with, I mean, it's easy. It's such a beautiful double-edged sword.
It's harder and easier.
Because you get more information, but then you have to be super skeptical of everything that you go through. You know what I mean? And that's where it really kind of boils down to your own intuition. And that's where I think we, kind of, the spirituality aspect of everything. You have an intuition, understanding of your own conscious being. And once you digest the BS and the facts or whatever, you don't know those at the time, but you digest everything, and then you tell yourself what you think is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's ultimately what matters, is the fact of what your individual happiness, what you think is best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, though, people do need to. I feel like there's a problem with the entire news outlets and how it's pretty much, it's governed.
Sure.
It's ran by the government, and it's just like based on these people's words that
it's ran by corporations.
Yeah.
There's 6 corporations that basically own 98, I don't know the exacts, but 6 corporations I think own 95 to 98% of all media outlets across the world.
Yeah.
So if all 6 of those corporations share the same idea or opinion, 95 to 98% of people are being subjected to those same 6 corporations' ideas. You know what I mean? And you're so right. But what's the answer? Is the answer platform where just people deserve to voice their opinions, but it's a weird thing to think that like every single it's everything a voting thing. You know what I mean? Like, what's
it'll
the
be
answer?
hard because if someone were to start a new platform for free thinkers,
Donald Trump's starting a new platform in 2 to 3 months.
But you know what's going to end up happening with that? The government will find a way to shut it down. They'll find a way. They'll make it happen for whatever reason it may be.
I don't think that'll happen.
I think it will.
Want to make a bet on camera? No, I'm just kidding.
But the government can control it if they want to.
But that's the problem we're experiencing right now. You know? Like literally, and again, put the person aside, fill in the blank, fill in President blank got canceled from fill in the blank social media. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I don't fill in the blank of whatever it is and wherever it is. That's wrong. You can't do that.
You can take it even further than just president. Anybody.
Person. Right.
Any individual being canceled from social media in general is wrong.
If it's a free platform.
Yeah.
Because again, though, they put those little accept here, blah, 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 blah. But then again, though, they're and I agree with you, because they're at that point, they're then opting themselves out of
freedom of speech. Yeah. It's taking freedom of speech away from somebody. Well, I mean, they still have their ability to speak freely, but they don't have I guess that goes more into another amendment is I think it's like freedom of press.
Yeah.
I feel like that's more so what social medias are, is a press. Like, as in the sense of like
they should be in the idea that they should be a blanket for people to voice their opinions or questions.
Yeah.
You know, because a press, I think of like a press conference, you have a bunch of media outlets that are asking questions. So those media outlets could be controlled. But if those media outlets were hypothetically individual people, yeah, people are just expressing their outputs, their emotions, their feelings, whatever. You know?
Yeah.
It is essentially, yeah. Again, freedoms and rights are being stripped away. Like,
no matter what way you twist it.
And it's so crazy. People don't care. How? I don't understand how.
I think people care. They just don't do anything. People are upset by it and they don't like it.
Caring is doing something.
Not necessarily.
It is. In the sense that I agree.
They don't care enough.
Okay, sure.
I would say they care, but it's not to the level of like, all right, let's go overthrow the government because.
But it starts somewhere.
Yeah,
it starts somewhere.
Yeah,
and again, I don't condone. No violence should be taken. It shouldn't be necessary. I mean, that's absolutely the last resort. When the sense that like the violence is only necessary when they're trying to overtake and inflict on you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's when you need to be violent, is when they're trying to be violent to you.
Yeah,
you know,
self-defense.
Exactly, self-defense, 100%. So, not saying that, but could you? I mean, again, the fences. Could you imagine the January 6th thing? I don't want to go down that, but there's a lot of fishy stuff with that. But that, though, in itself was a crazy turnout for supporters for Trump. Could you imagine if we put politics aside, red, blue, conservative, Republican, liberal, whatever it is, put it aside. Human beings that are not in a position of power, if we just walked to those gates, they would literally probably fall to their knees.
Yeah,
like,
for
you
sure.
know what I mean? We wouldn't even have to bring a pitchfork. We would just have to bring our legs and our hands and our meat vehicles and just bring ourselves there and just stood there.
Could you imagine what would happen if like we just overthrew?
Dude, I think
if we just overthrew the White House and the Pentagon in every single area of like
with no violence,
but we just stayed there.
Just literally just stayed there.
That's it. We ran out all the politicians. Everybody, and even we just by stayed there.
Even just standing there, I think we would rid them out. Because what are they going to do? They're going to get like food.
Just go sit in their chairs. They're 80 years old. They can't stand.
Dude, people are being arrested for that. Not to laugh at the situation because that sucks. But
that's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
But if 100,000 people
with
walked in there, if 100,000 people just walked in there and just sat down, the police wouldn't be able to do anything. And if they wanted to start trying to be violent, people would be violent back and they would start defending themselves. And there's not enough police.
No, for sure. And that's what it comes down to. And that's, there should be no violence. There should be no violence. But the fact of pure numbers, and this is what I was going to say, walking to there, I think there would be an earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to come with anything but our feet and just bodies.
Just the sound of it would be ridiculous.
Literally. And could you imagine if we all started chanting? They would literally be blown away by the vibrations of our voice.
Yeah.
We would not need a single tool.
Yeah.
We would literally not... We could...
Everyone just
I think we could big bad wolf them all the way down. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
with just our singular voice, just our voices as a single unit.
I agree, and I feel like the whole June 6th thing was
January 6th. Yeah.
January 6th. Oh, I feel like it was an okay attempt, but I feel like there was too many people going in with the wrong intent.
Hijacked. It was hijacked.
Yeah,
I think it was hijacked, and there was. If you count amount of the people that were there that actually went into it, maybe 15%, 20% had bad intentions.
Sure.
Some people just got caught up with like, oh my gosh, I'm in the White House.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Like, I never got to see that. But you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, look at that. You know, like it was a lot of people were like that.
Yeah.
But then again, though, there were some people who had bad intentions.
Yeah. I think in an instance like that, though, 15 to 20% is way too much for bad intention, though.
Sure.
That needs to go into something with 0% bad intentions for a positive outcome.
I would say of that, what did I say, 10 to 15? 15 to 20? Whatever
I think
it was.
15, 20.
15 to 20%.
Whatever.
I would say 15% of that, so either 10 to 15% of that, I would say were provocateurs, those that were there with before they even got to the even gates.
Sure.
They had the intention of doing wrong.
Yeah.
And then I think some people were like, well, this is cool. And then some people were like, oh my gosh, I really am a part of this kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's hard to blanket things, you know?
Yeah. Maybe if the government were to plant somebody to start violence or whatever it may be, and it might get some innocent bystanders to like kind of like act out like, oh, people are doing this, I'm going to join in and do what they're doing.
So the only thing I get difficult with that, and I agree with you, besides for the fact that I have a difficulty of just the government being one good or bad thing, I feel like the government itself is splintered. And the fact that like, though the majority in the government for a period of time had a common goal, not everybody did.
No.
And the question is, now, who's actually in charge? And I'm not talking about anything more than just government itself as a body. I'm not talking about like who President Biden or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the good or the bad within that governmental body. What fraction of that is actually in charge?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I feel like there's more ill intent within the government than there would be positivity.
Definitely has been. That's for sure. That's for sure. But I'm young too, so it's hard for me to truly put this into perspective as far as a lifespan. And again, though, I didn't vote for Trump in 2016. I didn't vote for Hillary either. I want to make sure that's said right now. I didn't vote for her either. But I wasn't a big avid Trump supporter. But the last 4 years that I did have, did very well. Like I made a lot of, and again, though, I'm young, so it's really hard for me to kind of, because again, I got a kind of a big boy job kind of thing or whatever. Right. But it's still like I was able to have a lot of good life experiences.
Right.
And again, though, I'm not, it's hard for me to say like, oh, it was because of him or because of that person or whatever. Because again, though, I'm young, whatever. But
yeah, it's hard to give that to a person.
I definitely was no depression.
Yeah. You can't necessarily say though that it was because of a person. That's your own. That's your own doing to bring yourself that life. But like you said, yeah, like you said though, we're young. So 4 years to us is still honestly quite a bit of time, especially in our adult life.
I felt like the pie that I was taking from though, and I mean the pies and the whole economy, was tastier.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a weird way to put it.
No, it makes sense. I get it though. Like you feel like you were able to flourish better.
Yes. Yeah.
Than
just because of those that I was, or those that were allowing me to flourish, and that's kind of a weird way to say it, but they were flourishing. You know what I mean? It's a trickle down effect because I am into the relative system.
Yeah. So what happens next? So we're now, say you flourished the last 4 years, but what do you think happens as people feel like they're failing, just say the next 4? Say the Biden administration wouldn't even attest it to being his fault, but say people just genuinely don't do as well the next 4 years because of whatever reason it may be, even if it's not due to that. Do you think there's going to be an uproar over the government or something?
Well, first of all, I have to separate my own personal experience from that situation because we're just starting that. So like I couldn't, it'd be hard for me to say like the last 4 years were great, the next 4 years were good in the sense of finances.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, finances. Clearly, our rights are being taken away from us. That's. I hope we made that point clear.
I feel like though, if anything in the next 4 years where rights are taken from us, there's going to be massive.
The next thing is guns. If they come for the guns, no violence is needed. If they come for the guns,
there's a civil war.
Single one. There's not a civil war though. A civil war would mean that we're going against each other.
Yeah, no.
It would be a
war against the government.
It would be a revolutionary war.
Yeah.
We would be, and again, I think it would just take our voices. Like if we literally all went down there and just started shouting, we would literally yell them out of the house.
Yeah. But I feel like if they come for the guns, there's going to be
that'll be the tipping point. That'll be the tipping point.
Yeah.
That'll be the tipping point.
Which is kind of odd though.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't say.
You know why I say no is because that's a last line of protection.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. If they take those.
And you know what's amazing though? Even if they do take our guns, you know whose guns they're taking? Just the people that own them legally.
Sure. And see that though.
They're not taking Chicago, for instance, highest gun crime in the United States. And it's illegal to own a gun.
The terminology I think to put that is like they're taking registered guns.
Yeah.
They're not taking unregistered guns. Who owns registered guns? Lawful abiding citizens.
Yeah.
Who owns unregistered guns? People with bad intentions.
Yeah.
So you're literally...
I wouldn't say entirely.
Okay, but a small sliver.
I feel like people purchase unregistered guns just for the sake of the government not knowing that they have them. Okay,
but then again, though, you're separating the idea of law-abiding citizen because, again, buying unregistered gun is not against the law.
So they're just taking the registered guns, though.
From, and I don't want to put it into a singular box, but good people.
Yeah. So I mean,
people
even
with good intentions.
Even people with good intentions still have unregistered guns. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to have unregistered guns necessarily.
You're right.
But someone who can't own a gun legally cannot have a registered gun. So they will never have their guns taken from them. So what's the purpose?
It doesn't. It just skews. It just tips the weight.
So all of these people that own registered guns are screwed.
Yeah. You're 1,000% correct.
Because as soon as all those guns go, all of these people that know I still have a gun because it's not registered,
their gun becomes
everyone
more powerful.
else doesn't.
Becomes more powerful.
Yeah. And that comes down to like almost kind of like mobster type times where it's just going to be way more crime.
That's why it's so... There's bad people out there.
Yeah.
Bad people have bad intentions. Bad people do bad things. But the fact that you could just say everybody's not allowed to have these and then think that people with bad intentions aren't going to find a way to get those in a bad way is just so... I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like, are you using this thing up there? Like, are you really using it?
Yeah, when someone with bad intentions know that someone else doesn't have a gun, there's no repercussions to them robbing them or breaking in their house or stealing their kids.
It becomes more frequent.
Yeah, it'll just be an explosion of crime.
Try to understand a world where you don't get that. Can you? Because I can't.
What, where I don't get a gun?
Where you don't
allowed
understand the fact that like taking away guns from good people is not going to increase violence. Like, how does that not? Again, back to like the 2 + 1. I mean,
yeah, no,
I don't know. It's so hard, and it's sad, to be honest with you. It really is sad because guess what doesn't get shown? It doesn't get shown the fact where somebody does come into a store and have the intention with bad intentions, and guess what? There was a good person there with good intentions, and they stopped the situation from being a bad situation.
And it's funny because all those stores say you can't carry a gun on our plate, on our thing.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. It would just cause problems. Nothing but. It's not going to be good for anybody.
As if we need more.
Yeah, and for real, there's already so much to worry about. Now we gotta, at least we're capable of defending ourselves.
For now.
Yeah, for the time being.
We stopped being able to freely talk in a way that is impactful. Yeah. And that's actually the problem, because let's be honest, they didn't take freedom of speech away in the sense that, like, I can't go on the street right now and say whatever I want to say.
Yeah.
But they took it away from an area that could actually be impactful.
Yeah, it's a lot different when you can show something to 1,000 people.
Sure.
Just by typing. As compared to going out in the street and just be like, hey, neighbor, did you hear about this?
Yeah, right.
They're just going to shut their blinds. They're like, man, this crazy guy again. I'm calling the cops.
Oh, boy.
Here we go.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It's in those times, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of couples with the idea, again, like, ignorance is a choice.
Yeah. You're right, though. If anyone tries to touch our guns, that's going to be
last straw.
Yeah.
I hope it.
Yeah.
Because
I think, and the problem with that, though, is if they do try to take our guns, it's going to turn into a war. It will.
The question
but it's what all is going to happen. There's going to be some people trying to overthrow the government. There's going to be some people that are trying to get rich out of it. There's going to be some people that are just trying to do whatever they want during it. There's going to be a lot of
I see
various
two paths.
Things.
What you're talking about, I see two paths. I see what they've been trying to do, division.
Yeah.
Because that would be just fractured people.
Yeah.
The other one, which obviously would be best case scenario, unity.
Yeah.
Realizing that, like, listen, I don't care if you voted for who or vote for whoever you did or didn't vote. I don't care. The fact that, like, you're a human and you're going through the same crap that I'm having to go through.
Yeah.
Let's pull together and let's make sure that this crap isn't happening anymore. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's that. You got, and again, it kind of goes to this idea that, like, you have to third person, fourth person, whatever, how many perspectives go out. You have to realize that, like, it's not about you and me. It's the fact that, like, we're all having to deal with this.
The big picture.
The big picture.
But it's hard to unify 300 million people.
The internet. Why do you think it's being censored?
Yeah, because they don't want everyone to... Crazy. When you put everyone's mindset kind of in the same area, or, like, are able to share your thoughts more freely, then people... Who knows what people are going to do?
Who knows? You're right. You're so right. I don't know. It's really kind of crazy, and especially when you think about impact that could have.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the goal. The goal is to individualize and then divide. You know what I mean? Because if you can make somebody feel like they're no more powerful than just what they themselves can do, and then you divide everybody and take division as a blanket group. Race, color, eye color, skin color, shirt color, whatever it is, the music genre, whatever it is. I don't care what the conflicting idea is. Even teams, rivalries, anything. When you, and I'm not saying competitiveness can't be the thing. Competitiveness is a growth opportunity. But what I'm getting at is the emotional anger of having against somebody else beyond a competitive idea, a true, genuine anger just in belief or understanding is so imprisoning.
It is.
It's so imprisoning.
Yeah.
And when you can achieve that, that's, I wouldn't even say half the battle. That's 80% of the battle.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then everything else just splinters from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when you break that, and I don't want to say break the 3D, I'm not trying to, the 3D paradigm or the 3D reality, but when you break that idea that, like, it's not just, and not even a selfish thing in the sense of, like, or a humble in the sense of, like, it's not always about yourself, but you have as much of an input out there to reflect the reality as much as the next person has an input out there to reflect the reality. Yeah. And because of that understanding, we together can make this whatever we want.
Yeah. for sure.
As long as we all agree upon it.
Mm-hmm. But the people with the largest voices are the ones with the bigger followings.
And what are they projecting?
Whatever they want.
What have we been experiencing? Division.
War.
You know what I mean? Like,
just example right now, for instance, is like Bill Gates. He's got a huge following on social medias and stuff, and he's allowed to post whatever he wants. He never sees any backlash. So he's always posting things about like vaccinations and things like that. And he's got this big voice, and people are very supportive of him, and they're very into it and stuff. And he's got this ginormous voice, whereas someone with...
Does he, though? Does he really have a ginormous voice? I get what you mean, as in he has a big name. But how many people actually digest what he says?
People follow big names.
And you're right. And I'm not saying there's not a percentage of people that do. But I would... And I could be totally wrong with this. And what do I know? But social media followings, you can definitely influence, whether it be... he has a lot of money. He can influence that in a monetary sense as well. But I would say 50% of people that actually listen to him actually respect him. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. And sure, even that, if you take however many millions of people that follow him or every million people that listen to him, 50% is still a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. But then if you take someone...
But there's just as many with an opposing. I think.
Absolutely. But the people that oppose will try to post their opposing thoughts, and it gets blocked.
Canceled.
Yeah, and they're not allowed to because, according to Snopes, it's false.
Not to throw Snopes under the bus, because there's a lot of other fact checkers out there that are not fact checking.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But Snopes is not out there pulling some weight.
It's kind of crazy to think that there's even fact checking websites. Dude, and who are these independent fact checkers? Dude,
I heard something, and it's so true, and I can't take credit for this because I didn't think of it my own self, but George Orwell is laughing in his grave. Like he said this. Like, we put a cinematic visualization around it. He put words on a paper, but his thoughts, relatively speaking, I would imagine, is exactly what we're going through with the idea of the fact that we have the internet and social media, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at its core, laughing in his grave. Like, he's like, dude, I told you all.
Yeah.
Like, what else do you want?
These fact checkers, though, they're telling us what to think. They're telling us what's true.
But why that, though? Because your belief and your thoughts mean something. If it didn't mean something, why would they waste their time?
Yeah.
But it means something.
Right.
And why does it mean something? Because, again, we collectively decide what this reality is.
Yeah.
So if they influence you that it means something, and therefore we just, whether consciously or subliminally, however, accept that, people do it. Guess what happens? That.
Yeah. Right.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think about. It really is weird to think about. They do a good job. They do a very good job at making us feel so isolated. Mm-hmm. Why do you think? I mean, not you. Sorry, but depression has been such a huge incline of the last, I don't know, I would say decade, but who's to say it couldn't go further out?
It's fair in the last decade, though. Even
because of this whole idea of individuality.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not saying you shouldn't be proud and confident of yourself, because you should.
Right.
It starts there. You have to accept who you are before you can start accepting others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you do that without accepting yourself?
Yeah.
So I'm not diminishing that idea, but again, just this community aspect. That's what matters.
Yeah, I feel like when you're a collective, though, it's easier to be happier. But
not like a full hive mentality, because we are individual free thinkers.
Yeah, absolutely. We're
There's
still
a
individuals.
choice to be a part of it, though.
But I feel like
right.
being a part of a community helps. that helps the depression and stuff like that. So
for sure. No, I completely agree. And I don't know if we really got to fully experience that. You know, like I went to a couple, and when I say parties, I mean like on the street parties, not like family parties. Like I mean like community parties. Like literally, like we live near each other, hang out. Right. You know, I've been to like maybe 1 or 2 of those, so like I've had a little sliver of it. But just if you broaden that, still had that. Those are fun, but like helping each other take care of bare necessities,
right?
You know,
yeah.
And I'm not saying like any sort of finance idea, but like, hey, you do this, I do that. Hey, what's up? Let's do this. You know, whatever. I got you, you got me. Kind of scratch your back, you scratch mine.
People are selfish though,
because the mentality.
Yeah, but they like to make us feel individualized. They want to
powerful.
Yeah, because it's the whole separation thing. Everything's separationism.
Divide and conquer.
Yep.
What it really comes down to.
And it's so wild that we kind of were like taught about divide and conquer, like divide someone's army and then you can easily beat them. That's what's been happening to us. Why can't people see that?
Exactly that. No, for sure. And what's so crazy to me, and not that there's unfortunate instances that happen, maybe proportionally, unproportionately, who am I to know? But the fact that they're able to project this idea that like certain basic ideas of people are worthy of division, whether it be, you know, again, just basic ideas like the color of the skin. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, that's literally just the color of my skin. Like,
that's one of the biggest division points too.
It's so crazy.
I feel like that's fed to people so much that like, especially towards African American people, I feel like they are forced to feel like they're separated from people and then they are kind of turned against white people.
In its own effort to empower, it literally diminishes.
Yeah. Whereas why the government just wants us to be separated, whereas if we were together, they know that they would fear us. And they create this narrative that tries to make us hate African American people. They try to create that.
Dude, I'm glad you kind of brought this up, not in the sense that because it's a thing, but I had an experience last year actually in my line of work. And in my line of work, if you smoke in a room and I can provide physical evidence that you smoked in the room, I don't care what you smoked. But if I can provide physical evidence of what you smoked in the room and I can't rent that room that night because you smoked in that room,
right,
I'm charging you because I cannot rent that room for the action that you did.
Right.
So I did that. And this person was the same skin color as me. However, their significant other, in her opinion, was not, and therefore justified as a racist action.
Yeah.
So they literally went to social media. Thankfully, it didn't get a lot of traction, but they went to social media and expressed this idea that I was racist because I charged them for a smoking fee, and I was like,
You
smoked in the room.
Yeah, it's like, a very clear rule.
I don't care if you were blue, brown, black, purple, orange, gray. It doesn't matter. You did this. Because of that, I couldn't do this, which makes the company money. Therefore, I have to charge you.
It's just the company policy.
Exactly.
That's literally all it is.
But the fact that like they were so... And the worst part about it was... The worst part about the whole situation was, regardless, it was that. But... I had another encounter, and when I approached the situation, and they were smoking weed on the patio, like right in front of the door. And I was like, listen, no, you can't just do that right here. You know what I mean? But before I was able to approach them, because of that situation, I had something in the back of my mind that was like, racist. And I was like, whoa. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because of that situation, I'm now thinking like, whoa, I have to now approach a situation in a different manner than what I would have normally.
Right.
Because of what they did. And I was like, wait a minute, that's the problem right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't, thankfully. I still approached the situation of like, listen, we can't do this here. So please leave the property.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I don't care. Just leave the property. I'm not going to call
I'm
the
not
cops
calling
on
the
you.
cops. Yeah.
Just take it away from the property. But the fact that I had that thought in the back of my mind, I was like, you did more damage than you did good.
Right.
And I don't know. It was something that kind of stuck with me in this idea that like the perpetuated idea is.
And I feel like
Not that there shouldn't be awareness. I apologize.
No, absolutely. But I feel like African Americans are pushed to be like, white people are always racist. And a lot of them have that thought process, and they will use that a lot. And they'll try to claim that so many people are being racist to them when they're just using standard policies like you were.
Yeah.
Or like whenever they happen to lose a job or something like that, their company was racist. Or even if they weren't holding up to it, it wouldn't matter what color you are. I feel like a lot of times that is utilized in a sense because that's what the government is trying, not the government, that's what someone is trying to tell them to use.
Yeah.
And
the influence upon them.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you want to individualize, subject, whatever it is. But the influence upon them is telling them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's the problem.
It's the influence.
It goes both ways.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, and you're right, though. I'm glad you pointed the other side of the coin because it goes both ways.
Yeah.
You know?
It does.
And I don't know. It's kind of crazy the fact that they're able, and I say they because I don't know who it is, but this idea is able to divide by their own insecurities, and because of those insecurities, force each other upon each other. So like they provide the fuel for the individuals to cause their own outcome.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And I got to be honest, though it's very manipulative, evil, and maniacal, ingenious.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is.
It's pretty ingenious.
Yeah, it really is. And it's smart for them. It's smart in a control sense.
But the intention is...
Yeah, the intention's absolutely awful because realistically, what's the difference between me and someone with black skin?
Melatonin. That's it.
That's it.
The level of melatonin is literally...
That's literally it.
But even that, though, not even to cause a literal thing to divide it between. Why? Their genetics were exposed to caused more melatonin.
Yeah.
That's it. It's literally just a different level of... But the skin is just an organ.
Yeah.
It's just
really
an organ. That's
and they just have black skin because they're originally from Africa and they lived in
genetics, even if not necessarily themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just thousands of years ago down the line or whatever it may have been.
A little number on it, but yeah.
Yeah. Whenever it may have been. Their family line was in Africa and they were just around the skin, so melatonin absorbed in their skin, they evolved in that sense because of their environment.
And to be honest, it really kind of boils down to, like to this, depending on how back and far evolutionary history you want to go. I mean, I don't necessarily know the whole thing, but because of that, they were more exposed to sun. So because of that, their body was able to block a lot of the sun. Mm-hmm. So therefore, they weren't more negatively impacted by the sun. Where those of lighter color skin were more of northern, in the sense the idea that they weren't exposed to as much sun. So when they did get exposed to sun, they needed to suck up as much of that as possible because they needed that to carry them through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like right now, you're sunburnt.
Oh, I'm so sunburnt. And the reason for that is because I went to Hawaii super, super white. And my body was like, we need sun. Yeah. We haven't had vitamin D in a long time.
It was trying to protect you from it.
Exactly.
It's your skin trying to protect it. But based on skin color...
So if it boils down to it, they just have more protection.
Yeah. But
they just got a thicker skin.
Yeah, based on skin color, though, there's nothing preventing them from doing
They isn't us because we're all the same thing.
Yeah. I'd just say they as in not me. Like,
sure, that's what I meant too. They as in not my individual person.
Yeah. There's nothing preventing African Americans from doing anything that I can do. Literally nothing. Their body is just as capable as mine is to theirs.
Sure.
We're all capable of the exact same things.
Got a heart, pumps blood, breathe.
Yep. Their hands work, feet work. There's nothing preventing it.
Given the fact that everybody was born with all those.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's nothing preventing anyone from doing anything. So why is there such an oppression?
Well, you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head in the sense that like nothing is stopping anyone from doing anything except for them own selves. And them own selves come from their own mentality and or conscious spirit being. And that can be influenced upon. So if that's influenced upon negatively, well, then there you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what it comes down to. That's what makes the division is the influence upon them. Because again, though, we're just, I like to say it that we're just all the same thing, just trying to figure out this crazy place.
Right.
We're all the same exact thing, just trying to figure out this crazy place. Unfortunately, it's expected to be crazy, but it's like real crazy, right? Like it's real crazy.
It's going past organized chaos. It's just kind of like chaos. I would say there's a systemic oppression, not even just against.
There's a systemic oppression of information and experience.
Yeah.
Because if I had the information and I got to experience those things, I wouldn't have those thoughts.
Yeah.
Not saying I have those thoughts, but if I were somebody who did have those thoughts.
Right.
Whatever those thoughts were.
And the system wants you to... It wants you to think this way to create the division.
The seed.
Yeah. It makes it so it's like... It almost plays into like white people are all yuppity type people. We're all we care about is flashy things. We just care about our having big houses with white picket fences and stuff like that. And like
the American dream.
Yeah, it tries to paint us into this American dream. And then the system will try to paint African Americans as being like this just low income. That's how they try like living in a ghetto and stuff. And they try to, the system creates a separation. So it makes people view it as like, oh, they're terrible people because they live in this situation when there's African Americans living next door to you and with a white picket fence too. No,
you're absolutely right. And I think that's kind of a beautiful thing to kind of wrap it up with. And the idea of this situation is the fact that like, thankfully those that are able to flourish their seed in a way that is more plentiful than any negative, those that do it in a negative sense have to realize that like, they're only like, I knew what a ghetto was with like in that context before I knew what a successful black family was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not to say that there wasn't an equal amount, more or less than whatever the other, but the fact that I was subjected to that information before the other is the problem.
Yeah.
You know, and because that just kind of it wraps my mentality, you know, it wraps individual mentality. And not to say that everybody has the same experience, but again, I came from a Catholic school. So that was my intention, or I'm sorry, that was my impression.
Yeah. So, yeah, the system painted it in our minds that, like, you go into a ghetto, all you're going to see is black families. There's just as many white people. There's just as many
Hispanics.
Everyone. It doesn't matter.
You name it. Fill in the blank.
The ghetto doesn't discriminate.
No, the ghetto attracts people.
Yeah.
It attracts people.
Yeah. It's individuals.
It isn't until those people make the decisions for those differences to group together.
Yeah.
Where it becomes something more.
Right.
You know? But you're so right in the fact that it's just
yeah.
comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the system trying to separate. It's all at once.
Hopefully we can hope for some more optimistic, beautiful transition from the system, because this is pretty gross.
Yeah, absolutely. But
it's pretty gross.
They're getting to the point where they're going to have to start reaping what they sow, and there's going to be an overthrow, and hopefully, well, I mean, things will change. There's going to be a change.
I think we could boil that down to there will be accountability for their actions.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what all that matters. Who does it, how it happens, it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to say that we want to have any influence over anything. You know what I mean? Other than the fact that we want to be able to we want our rights. We want to be able to voice our opinion. We don't want to be harassed about our gun. Heard, you know, exactly.
We want our opinions heard. We don't just want to voice it. We want to be heard.
But again, it's really just that, though. And everybody should want that. Yeah. Everybody should really desire to have that. And it's not about having something to hide or not something to hide. It's that, like, you get to make the decision.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't want...
Your decision is being taken away.
As it stands right now, the way that it works, a congressman or woman is our voice.
Yeah. And you're right. The thought that we're told is that we have elected that person to be your voice. That's the thing that we're told. We're learning that potentially isn't the case. Yeah. So if that's the case, if that's the situation, then there's a potential idea that our voice has been hijacked from something that does not share our like-minded opinion.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't elect someone to be your voice thinking that they share similar ideas, because nobody's going to think what you think exactly. No. May share basic concepts of a couple points that they speak of, that they let you know that they're interested in, but that doesn't
But they shouldn't be expected.
No.
It shouldn't be an expectation.
No.
And that should be okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And honestly, that's what makes it so great. You know what I mean? Because we're all dealt the hand, and it depends on how you play the hand, regardless if one is better than the other. They all go through a different experience, and they can all provide. Yeah. And it kind of comes full circle with just what we were talking about with the whole AA idea and maturity and allowing youngsters to grow in their mentality, is the fact that, like, our experiences mean something.
Yeah.
Whether they're good or bad, they mean something. And they need to be projected in an educated, informative way. And avoid entertainmentship and showmanship.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where it gets dicey.
But we're learning, though, that we aren't the voice of the changes that are made.
Learning to be that way.
Yeah. We've always been told that, like, we the people, we have all the say of what happens, but when is the last time that you got to vote on a... Did we get to vote on the stimulus bill?
No, because again, what you were just mentioning before, the people that we thought that we voted on to be your voice got to vote on that.
Yes.
So no, not directly, but indirectly we did.
Indirectly, yes.
Though we think indirectly we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, though, it's still that thought.
We could have voted for someone that says they would have voted no against it, and they voted yes for it.
Sure.
Just for instance. So.
And I guess transparency was really kind of boils down to. You know what I mean? Like, we just wanted, and whether it's information or whether it's the vote. I mean, not my first original thought, definitely been said before, but you can do almost, like, I've put in my social security number on the internet via banking situations, via college application situations, tax information situations, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
Why can't you vote? Whether it be your phone. I mean, obviously there should be some sort of identification, verification that can be done. That can be done. So why do we have to? I mean, thankfully, the last time I voted, I was able to click buttons on a screen at a location. But still, though,
what's the difference?
Why?
What's the difference between you clicking buttons on a screen and clicking buttons on a screen? Like,
so my answer to that would be the server that they run off of.
Yeah.
Mine's more traceable.
Right.
Mine's transparent.
Yeah.
Is the other? You know? No. Right. I mean, we're told it's protected, whatever. I mean, this is what we're told. But whatever.
Anything's hackable.
For sure. And even that case, if something's hacked on my computer, guess what? There'll be a trace of it.
Yeah.
Okay, something bad happened. Not going to diminish the fact that, like, if that is the case and we all vote on our computers and a vote does get hacked and it gets voted the wrong way, yeah, that's a bad thing. That's wrong. But you can track it. Yeah, you can find out. You can figure out what happened.
And you should be able to go back and look in records of a vote that you made.
Yeah. It should be logged into your whole system, you know?
There should be...
Not the saying that, like, you should, because we got to be careful, because it's not like it should be attached to your identity, because you don't want to be like 20 years down the road and they're like, oh, you voted on this and we're not going to allow you to do this or whatever.
Right, yeah. But it's not like a background checkable thing.
It should be at least...
But it should be traceable in the sense that you should be able to go back and look at your votes to make sure that it was voted the correct way. It should be traceable in that sense.
For the foreseeable idea of verification.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to verify that what happened is what.
Right. And why not? Why can't you go to a website called government.gov?
gov.gov.
Yeah.
gov. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. And I mean, doesn't that make the most sense if we're voting on what we as US citizens want? That would truly give us the majority vote, even if what I personally voted for didn't go into fruition and it went the opposite way. At least I know the majority vote was there. That was a majority vote. It's essentially running a poll.
Exactly. That's like, exactly what it is. But at least I can stomach that. I can stomach the fact that, like, okay, and clearly the majority don't want it.
And it can come down to a point where there has to be such a percentage for something to pass. For instance, say something needs 70% to pass rather than just 51% and it passes. So it needs...
depending on the population size pool of those that would be influenced.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of depends. But, like, man, I play a game called RuneScape. And... Heard of it. They have polls on there that allows their players to pick.
It's very community influenced, which is what needs to be done.
And they don't pass anything, updates, unless it gets like a 73% rating or something like that. Because that's what the people really want.
Yeah.
So
there's a true decision being made there.
Yeah, exactly. So... it's crazy that a video game can take that concept. But obviously, it's a little bit harder with the government and large bills and stuff. And
larger people, population size. But yeah, the concept is basic.
Yeah, it's a very simple concept.
Super.
Yeah. It almost eliminates the need for a lot of the politicians.
See, and you're right. I see. The problem is politicians is a politician is I mean, not so much, but almost to be a favored role.
Yeah.
Where, what if it was a civil duty?
Yeah.
Everybody had to serve a year of it, and it was like this. I do jury duty again, or
this
I gotta do this. I mean, enough to where, like, you're like, okay, I realize I got to make decisions here that are going to be impactful for everybody, so we have to be conscious about this. But I'm not saying you should be slave labored either. But there shouldn't be this, like, glorification of, like, this, like, stature of, like, I got power.
You shouldn't be among the highest earners.
Yeah, I shouldn't be like this, very pretentious hiring earner ruler. You know what I mean? Because it just sets this mentality of bad.
yeah, absolutely. Because people that care about the money in politics are evil.
Yeah. Corruption at its
That's very blunt. That's just how it is. I feel like if you're in politics for the money, you're evil. Because if you're in politics, you should just want what's best for the people.
Exactly.
That's all that you should want.
And if that were actually the thing for all of those that are holding a public service position, wouldn't be bad. Because then the mayor that you selected for your community would be the mayor that everybody selected and agreed upon.
Right.
Therefore, they would then obviously opinion for 40 or whatever, you know.
Yeah. I don't know this for a fact, but like I'm sure you could trace certain bills that are being passed and watch the money trickle down and see who's got their money put where and where they're benefiting off of certain bills that they're voting for.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I don't know that for a fact. I haven't like really dived into it, but come on.
If there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Right. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I only need to be told 2 + 2 = 4 once.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
so you watch the money fall down, and it's like, you pass this bill for the money.
For sure.
And you hid it. You hid that you're getting this money.
All you got to do is follow the money.
Yeah. 600 pages in this bill. Nobody reads that.
And the fact that they give them a time frame too.
Yeah.
There's literally a time frame from here to here, meaning this is when we present it, this is when we vote on it.
Yeah.
And you have to digest and understand and then make a decision for all those people that elected you that you represent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can read a book 3-4 times and still not properly digest everything that's in it.
No.
So how are you going to read 700 pages in a week and truly grasp everything that's in it and their little wordings that they like to use that make it kind of like uncertain of what's really happening?
It's like projected in a subjective but unsubjective way.
Yeah.
Like it's always like teeter-totting in this weird way of like, okay, no. It's always like this weird balance of nonsensical.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
But
I feel like one of the best ways to go forward voting, though, is having it like that. Having the ability to have us vote on bills and being just, again, it would have to be under a time frame. We can't take an entire year to pass every single bill or whatever, but like, give us a month. The people that really want to sit down and read it and discuss it with their friends and stuff, then they will. And people will research the information that's in it in more obtainable ways, which is YouTube and things of that nature.
If they feel more a part of it, they will feel more need to be invested into it. Therefore, they'll make more of a conscious decision of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's actually a very beautiful point. And to be honest with you, it could kind of couple with the whole idea that we were talking with before and the fact that where tax money. It literally included all in the same app where you just have like a slider bar, you have an election tab, you have all this, you have all that. It have to be secure. As long as it's secure, which again, I don't see why there would any be reason not to, because how much other personal information have I put out there? The fact that like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like it's so
it can't be no less secure than any current government websites.
Sure. Because I would assume that's what it would be, right?
Yeah, it would have to be a government
application, website, whatever it is, extension.
And honestly, that would make it extremely easy to review the votes.
The other thing they're afraid of is 100% of opinion.
Yeah.
100% opinion is hard to influence.
Yeah. And the freedom.
Yeah.
That's giving a lot of freedom.
Those that are oppressive hate freedom.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That's a lot of freedom to give somebody just there's their voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a powerful voice.
For sure. And that's more powerful. Well, that's more powerful than a gun in ways.
Yeah.
When you can influence thought and idea, You can change minds.
Mm-hmm. With a gun, you can just kill somebody.
Yeah.
Being able to change someone's mind is completely different. Can you imagine if you can change the person with the gun's mind?
Exactly. Isn't that the goal, though?
Yeah.
That's
of course.
the goal.
If someone pointing a gun at you, you want to change their mind and not shoot you.
No doubt. Become a negotiator real quick.
Essentially, you're more powerful than the person with the gun because you got him to point it away from you.
Yeah. If you're able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Right.
If not, then, well, you didn't change their mind. So.
And unfortunately, you've had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's it's definitely one way to look at it. I don't know. It's really crazy when you really kind of wrap around the whole idea of how powerful the mind is. They have the idea and the awareness together.
I feel like they'd be a lot more careful with the bills that they're passing. Any laws they're trying to put into place, any of that. I feel like they'd be extremely careful about it.
Well, and if we're referencing to the idea of our accessibility in our utopia world where we're voting on our app and stuff like that, they wouldn't be able to.
Mm-mm.
Could you imagine how quick something would be rejected if it was just complete utter nonsense and the people actually got it to their phones and they were able to like listen? Like, sure, maybe not one person would be able to sit there and just stomach and digest it all, but like then they talk to their other person and they talk to their other friend and they're like, "Did you see that? Did you read that? I read
Everyone
that part."
Gets different bits of information and they're like they kind of share that with people.
Sure, that would be them in the sense of those that want control and oppression.
Yeah, it doesn't even necessarily mean the government.
No,
they can go beyond the government.
Absolutely.
There's someone that controls them.
Exactly.
Everyone's just a puppet in the game.
It really is.
Here in the Truman Show.
Until we all stand up.
Yeah.
It's so true, though. Yep. It's so true. The Truman Show. That's funny.
Yep. Stuck in the dome.
Uh-huh. We appreciate you sitting here with the Brain Buffet. If you like this content, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications.